I wanted to make this video about the Contax Yashica SLR 35mm film system, which I really think is a hidden gem in the analog film world. I think a lot of people, when they think about Contax, they think about those point and shoot film cameras that are very, very expensive these days, or maybe also the Contax 645 medium format camera, really expensive also. But there is this kind of hidden gem here, which is these little bit smaller, also pretty affordable Contax SLR cameras. There's a lot of different variations of them. None of them are really that expensive. Of course, you can probably, there's some cheaper brands out there, but all of them are pretty, available, pretty affordable. This is my favorite one, which is Contax Aria. It's one of the last models they made, and it's also, as far as I know, it's the smallest one. I could be wrong. There are some models that have more pro features, but I think for me this is like a good compromise camera. You know, it has a lot of this kind of auto rewind features. Let me see, did I put a film in this? Nope. But it still has, it has this auto rewind. If you look here, it's like, it has a lot of those kind of nice features. You put a film in, it automatically rolls it, and you can automatically rewind the frame. It has good light meters in. I would say a lot of, especially the cameras from the 70s, I think their light meters are often pretty shit. All the light seals and stuff you have to replace when you buy them. People often say to buy a Canon FD. All the Canon FD cameras I always bought, they always had so many problems. I always end up giving up on them. Also, I think the Canon FD lenses are a little bit overrated. A lot of people rave about them, but personally, I really like these Zeiss lenses, which Contax use here. All of them are Zeiss lenses. I also have some third-party lenses over here. So I think that's some of the highlights of this system. Just wanted to go over, which cameras you can get. Like I mentioned, I think this is a really cool camera, the Contax Aria. It's small, it's light, it has a lot of pro features. There's some Contax Aria cameras that has more pro features. They have this RTS series, which I also tried. Didn't really like it that much. They have a lot of more this kind of 100% viewfinder coverage, all those pro features. But for example, this viewfinder is really, really bright for such a small camera. I often get really disappointed when you get the try some small film camera with a viewfinder, but I think this viewfinder is really inspiring, and I think that's also something people underestimate, is this kind of, when you look through a viewfinder, you kind of have to be inspired, you know. I also think it's a good looking camera. It really reminds me of the Fujifilm XT series, XT1, XT2, XT3, those cameras. Definitely that's where Fuji got the inspiration from, no doubt. I will say, like I also mentioned, old cameras have problems. This camera is from the 90s. I think it's actually more like late 90s, which is also why they're pretty reliable. But there is a common problem you have to know about, which is that these two cameras doesn't have the problem, but I had all the cameras I bought in the past, which I returned. The problem is that this mirror is glued on this metal piece, and the glue kind of wears off, and it starts to the mirror starts to kind of slide down, and then people, they do this kind of hack where they heat up the glue and move it up, and then it sticks, but it only sticks for a few hours and then it falls down again. So don't even try that. I also tried, and I read that you shouldn't do it, but I just wanted to see if it works. There's only one thing you can do, and that is to actually reapply this glue, but the problem is then it has to be exactly the right amount of glue, otherwise it will not focus correctly. And that was also the problem with the whole mirror slide down thing. One thing is you don't see exactly in the viewfinder what you're gonna see when you take the picture, but also the focus is a little bit off. So that's actually the biggest problem. So that's something you really have to be aware of. If you buy one of these cameras, if you buy all the Contax camera, all of them have this problem. Just shoot a roll through it immediately as soon as you get it. Develop it, and do some lens tests. For example, focus on something that's really easy to focus on. Maybe something where you can see some elements in front, some elements you're focusing on, something in the back. Then you can easily see, did you did it focus or not? Develop the roll. If it doesn't work, return it to the seller on eBay or whatever, or try to fix it. But I would recommend, I think you have to be pretty good at fixing those things. There is this little lever inside that you can adjust with a screw, but I never managed to find a screw that could actually adjust that. So I think you have to be pretty hardcore to do that yourself. Like I mentioned, there's also some Pro Contax SLR cameras, and like I said, they're called RTS. There's also one called RX, I think. There is a RTS 1, 2, or 3. RTS 1 is from the 70s, so yeah. Personally, that's not. I'm not really a 70s camera guy. I think there's my experience. They often have too many problems. I also like that it's a little bit automatic. You know, the RTS 2 is more automatic. You know, and then the RTS 3 is insanely huge. I have a video about that camera. RTS 2 I think could be good for some people. Personally, I don't. Yeah, I actually like this Contax Aria. The good thing about the RTS is they have a little bit bigger viewfinder. If you want this full viewfinder coverage, if you want to see exactly what you're gonna get. Then to the next part, which is the lenses, and yeah. People often talk about these size lenses. This is just like the standard 50mm 1.7. This is probably one you're going to find if you buy locally or something. This is one going to be what's going to be stock on the camera in most cases. A lot of these lenses are used by video people because they have really good. Oh, this is a 85 2.8. Let me see where's my favorite one is this one. 50mm 1.4. I think this one I used for video a few times. Really give really nice. It really gives this kind of, yeah, how do you call it, professional video production look, or more like Hollywood look, or whatever you call it. Like a little bit low contrast look, which is something the modern lenses lack. Just a side note, I want to do a test one day to see if you actually get more dynamic range with these older low contrast lenses compared to more modern lenses. But yeah, that's for another time. I really love to, because I actually noticed that when I use the Canon EF lenses, more modern lenses for analog film photography, I actually noticed that I had lower dynamic ranges in the film. Anyway, there's a side note. I will maybe check back on my blog in the future. I will probably make a test about that. Yeah. I think those 50mm I really like. I really like the 1.7 just for like daily walk around things because it's pretty small. But yeah, can also be kind of used for a little bit low light. And then I also really like this 1.4 for low light. Yeah, you can basically just shoot in the evening with this, right? Handheld 1/60th of a second, or maybe 1/45 of a second or something, which is, yeah, that's really nice. You can do that handheld. Then I also have the zoom lens. There is a more expensive zoom. I forgot what that is called. This is more like a little bit more consumer version, but it's really nice for just walking around, travel stuff, you know. Let me see. Yeah, it focuses zooms internally. Also pretty nice. Actually have some pretty nice bokeh actually, which is a little bit surprising. Then I also have some third-party lenses. This is a ultra wide angle, at least for that time. 70mm 3.5. Back then the big companies didn't really make the super wide angle lenses. I know now today you can buy some even more wide angle, but so you have to go to this. This is Tokina who made this. Sorry, I forgot to mention Tokina who made this. It's not very sharp wide open, but I actually did take a good photo where it was basically wide open, I think. So yeah, but they're a little bit rare. Then I also have, this is Yashica. They also, which you probably know if you're watching this, but Yashica also made cameras and lenses for this camera mount. I actually bought, I forgot what it was called. I bought a Yashica camera and it was such a piece of garbage. I even bought two just to get replacement parts for it, and I ended up they both broke, you know. I forgot what was it called. So I got some of these lenses from that, and I also compared them to the Zeiss lens, and I would say at least wide open, they're very soft compared to the Zeiss lenses. I think stop down you cannot really tell, but if you plan to shoot wide open, stick with the Zeiss. Also the Zeiss lenses, especially for example the small one, is not very expensive, so get the good stuff. Then I also have this Sigma third-party lens, 28mm 1.8. It was like for some wide-angle street photography. It's okay also. Like the size one was very expensive, I think, for what it was, so I found this one cheap. And then I also want to show you can actually adapt some other lenses also. For example, this is the M45 mount, and this is just the Helios. You know, the Helios, what it's called, 44-2, the famous one from Russia. And on this, I have put this small little adapter here, and then it fits on the Contax camera. The only thing, of course, you cannot do is when you focus, you have to open up manually, focus to get enough light in, and then you can stop it down afterwards, because it doesn't have this switch to do it automatically when you take a photo. And also here another one. I also have this adapter here, also M42 mount, and this is Zeiss, also from DDR, Deutsche Demokratische Republik. Zeiss Jena 50mm Tessar 2.8. I actually think this lens is really a hidden gem. It has some kind of 3D pop that other lenses doesn't have. So I think those two lenses are actually really good. I can recommend as M42 to mount them. I would almost say this is the best M42 camera you can get, you know, because if you use an adapter. Because a lot of those M42 cameras, they are from the 70s. They need a lot of maintenance to work. So yeah. Also here you have viewfinder that. You have big bright viewfinder, but you also have metering in the camera, all those things. So yeah, maybe a good idea if you have some M42 lenses. And then I also want to mention this Zeiss lens that I sold, but it's a tiny one. It's called 45mm f 2.8, and it's really, really tiny. If you use that, it's like a little pancake lens, and you can really walk around this camera in the daytime, and tiny little, it will be a really good combination. And I would say buy that instead of some of those point and shoot Contax film cameras that are really expensive. Buy that combo instead. And also, if you are really hardcore into this system, then you should get that limited edition where it's like champagne gold or whatever it's called, that color that you really loved in the 90s. I think it looks so cool. You can get it in that color, and then it also have this 45mm also in that color. I think, but there's only like 500 or is it 5,000 of them out there. I think they're pretty expensive, but not as expensive as a lot of other Contax gear. So I would actually consider buying it a few times. Then I want to say, what other alternatives do we have for this camera, right? Like I mentioned, a lot of people talk about the Canon FD system. Personally, I don't like that system. It's mostly from the 70s. It kind of got outphased in the 80s. I think it's a good idea to buy something that's produced in the 90s, because bigger chance that it will still be alive. And also they made a lot of mistakes back in the 70s and maybe early 80s that they corrected later, something that we take for granted today with cameras. So this is just like, if you know how to use a digital camera, this is just like rock and roll. You can use it from day one, you know. If you buy one of those from the 70s, there's a lot of weird quirks, you know. So there's of course also the Nikon F systems, you know. They're actually pretty expensive, and to me they don't really have any sex appeal or anything. But some people love them and some people rave about them. I'm sure, you know, as far as I understand, that was actually really the high-end thing back in the days. It was actually to have Nikon, but just never really. Maybe it's because I use the digital Nikons. I don't really have much interest into that. What other systems are there? I even forgot. I think that's kind of it, Maybe I'm missing something. Then a lot of people who would buy something like this would also consider a Leica rangefinder camera, right? And I see actually a lot of people who use Leica rangefinder film camera, and they basically use it as more like a landscape camera. And it's a little bit weird to me. I think if you use Leica, you do people photography, you do street photography, or something. That's probably... I also try to use Leica rangefinder before. It's really good. You can see things walking into your frame. You kind of see this little frame, and you can see what's outside it also. But with a SLR camera, you see what you're gonna get, right? And I think if you do landscape, if you do cityscape or something, you want to see what you're gonna get. You don't want to have something where it's a little bit off, or you don't want to have something where it's a tiny little frame inside your viewfinder. So I think. I don't understand why do people take cityscape photos on a Leica rangefinder. I still don't understand it. Get something like this. It's pretty cheap. You can get awesome lenses, Then I want to give you one other option, which is a little bit hidden gem. People are going to laugh at me now, but this is a Canon EF-M or EOS EF-M. And it's actually a fully manual camera. It does auto rewind, but... you have the prism, split prism inside, like you also have in these. You basically have the exact same camera with all the dials for shutter speed and all the stuff. You also have a meter inside. It's really modern. It's made like in the end of the film era, like in the end of the 90s. So it's gonna last. Probably this light ceilings are gonna last. And you can adapt all your EF lenses, which probably a lot of people have laying around. Let's see, here's a 50mm. You can buy it super cheap if you don't have it. And it also have autofocus if you need it on some other system. Or you can do something like this. You can buy this adapter here, where you can put the Contax lenses on this. You can, like I said, the same problem with the Helios lens here for the Contax system. If you adopt these Contax lenses on this Canon, then you have to step up and down the aperture when you focus, and so you get more light in to focus with, and then step it down again. But that's it. Otherwise, I would say it's actually a good combination if you already have some EF lenses. Also, there actually is some EF lenses made specifically for autofocus, which, kind of matches a lot of these lenses here. For example, there is actually some Zeiss lenses for the EF mount, and there is basically this exact one, just in a little bit updated version, the 50mm size 1.4, in a little bit updated version for Canon, also for Nikon. You could buy for this, and it's probably the same price. So I would say if you're watching this video in a few years and Contax camera have gone up a lot, maybe consider that. But of course, this is not very sexy, This bubble Canon camera here. I think this is much more sexy, but it does have a lot of quirks, and I actually spent quite a lot of time and also money for fiddling around with this mirror problem, which almost all the Contax cameras I bought had. So yes, that's it. The last thing I just want to say is also, if you're shooting film, this is a little bit of a side note. It's very important you find a good way to scan your photos. I think that's something people are kind of missing out on. Either they take the scans from their lab and they think, oh, the lab have this awesome expensive $100,000 scanner or whatever, but even though the scanner is very expensive, they often don't really adjust everything correctly. You need to have the raw file from your scan yourself, and you need to be able to sit and fiddle around with it. I even tried a place where you could actually get some kind of TIFF file with a lot of bits in, and it still wasn't really the same as when I got a good scanning setup at home. And flatbed scanners are not very good, I would say. Then there's what is it called? I'll put the name in here. But there's also one where the problem with this flatbed scanner is that the head is moving around. There's a mirror that kind of direct the light into the sensor. Then there's also one where you kind of don't have a mirror. It only works for 35mm film, and there's some cheap options for that also. I can put a name here. But then I would say the best option is, of course, like most people do these days, is to use a digital camera and and use a negative lab, which a lot of people are also using. And I would say this easy 35 from Valoy, which is this scanning method. I have packed it away. I cannot show it right now, but you guys have probably heard about it. That's really my recommended setup for scanning 35mm film. You just mount this to the camera. There's light included in the unit. You just turn on the light and you stick in your negative, and you get really, really good results. And it kind of straighten out the film in a really, really good way. So personally, for my Contax film scans, I use that, and I really got some really, really good result that I just, yeah, it kind of matches medium format look you will normally get from other scanners. So remember to spend time on that. Yeah, that's my recommendation. Go on and buy the Contax SLR camera and yeah, shoot some film. Take care.